where we will do a little bit of questions and answers about the English language. I know that you are waiting patiently for me. It was fun to talk to a lot of you in the chat before we got started, but here we are. We're ready to go. I'm just going to make sure that everything is working, and I'll explain a little bit about how this lesson works for you. Just let me on my computer here make sure that the audio and everything else is working well. Of questions, and looks like it is. Well, hey, there will be a link posted by Todd from time to time over there in the chat. I did post the link for you because Todd is not here yet, but he will be here soon. He has assured me that he will be online soon, and he will help moderate the chat and post the link for you. But if you have a question, I will myself post the link for you where you can go and ask the question. What I will do then is I will take the questions as they come in. I will paste them into the chat so that you can all see them, and I will try to answer them as best as I possibly can. But anyways, welcome to all of you. You'll notice behind me, things look just a little bit more like Christmas. I have my little friends here. It is definitely getting closer to Christmas Day here in Canada. We are starting to decorate our home a little bit for Christmas. Jen and I spent some time earlier today talking about gifts, what we will be buying for the kids. But I very much look forward to Christmas. I get a little bit of time off work, and that's really, really nice for me. Anyways, I'm going to jump over to the questions because they are coming in like crazy. So I will start to post them in. Al Haddadi says, how to improve your speaking skills, or how can I improve my speaking skills? So the advice I usually give, and for those of you that are here all the time, you'll maybe get tired of me saying the same thing over and over again. But in order to improve your speaking skills, you of course need to speak. But it doesn't mean you have to always find someone to speak to. You can speak out loud as much as you can. My favorite thing to do when I was learning French was to narrate my day, or to say out loud everything that I was doing. So the way that works is this. I would say, I am lifting up my cup of tea. I am drinking my tea. I am checking my phone. I am sending an email. And if you say the things that you're doing out loud as you're doing them, sometimes people look at you like you're odd, but it also really helps you to start to use the correct muscles in your mouth. So that is a great thing to do. Next question we have is from Brahim. Hello from Morocco. Hello, Brahim. Dear Bob, thanks for your wonderful work. It's 6 months that I am committing to English listening, and I feel a consistency in my improvement. That is excellent. Very, very good. The more you work at your English, the better you will get at it. Let's see here. Lolly has a question. Hi, Lolly. Hi, Bob the Canadian. Please, what's the difference in meaning between these two expressions? Beat around the bush and the elephant in the room. Thank you. Or merci, Bob. I said thank you. I automatically translated in my head. When you beat around the bush, it basically means you're not saying exactly what you should say. Instead, you're kind of talking around the subject, okay? So let's say you have a friend who, maybe you have a friend who spends way too much time on social media. And you want to talk to your friend about that. But instead of coming right out and saying, hey, you spend too much time on social media, instead you beat around the bush. So you talk about your phone, and you talk about how much time you spend on your phone, and you don't talk about the problem. And when you say elephant in the room, it is the same basic thing. The elephant in the room is the thing you don't want to talk about, because maybe it's a sensitive thing to talk about. Let's see here. Next question is from Ulysses. Good evening, Bob, or good night, Bob. Regarding learning English, watching videos or books for children would be a good idea, and I wanted to see you speak a little bit of French. Je ne vais pas parler français ce soir. Peut-être une autre fois, je vais parler français un peu. Oh, oops, I just spoke a little bit of French. So I do speak French. You can see that I do have a bit of an accent. For those of you that for a moment there didn't know what I was saying, I was speaking French. I love speaking French. I wish I had more time to speak French every day. But anyways, that is hopefully an answer to your question. In terms of kids, books for kids, I always recommend the cartoon Peppa Pig. That is a great cartoon to watch for kids as they are learning English. Definitely a really, really good one. Let's see here. Michael says, hello, Bob. Hello, Michael. Could you, notice I'm correcting your question there. Could you explain to us how and when to use the words either and neither, or either and neither? We pronounce them two different ways, and I myself don't even know why I sometimes say either and sometimes I say either. So anyways, it's hard to explain the difference quickly, but what I will do is give you a few example sentences. So I could say neither my brother or I are really good at riding bicycles, okay? So I'm saying neither my brother and I or neither my brother and I are good, basically indicating that neither of us are good at riding it. When I use the word either, though, it's usually when there's a choice. Like I could either drink tea or coffee tonight. So I could either drink tea or coffee, or I could either drink tea or coffee. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is, but what I will say is that I have been listening to myself lately, and sometimes I don't know why I pronounce it one way or the other. It's kind of funny. Let's go to the next question. Right here, Renata says, can I say them both? Look on the bright side and look at the bright side. If so, which one is more common? So I'm not sure which of those is correct, but I have said both. Like look on the bright side, I think is the more common and more correct. But you can also say look at the bright side. Yeah, I think the on one is the most correct. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Look on the bright side. That is the one in my memory that I have said the most. Look on the bright side. Next question here is from Priyanut. Priyanut says, hello, Teacher Bob. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. What's the difference, little error there, what's the difference between very and many? So let me see, how would I say this? When you use many, it's quantity, right? So if you say that there were many people there, it means that there were a lot of people there. If you say there weren't very many people there, it means that there were not very many, there weren't a lot of people there. I hope I'm not confusing you with that description. So those words have a lot more meaning than just that. So I would certainly recommend you look up the word very and the word many, because it's a lot to explain really quickly, because we use them in a lot of ways. You know, if I say this tea isn't very hot, it means that it's cool. So definitely something that you should look up for sure. Let's see here. Gaga has a question. Sorry, folks, we're just waiting on Todd. He'll be here in a bit to post links. If I could ask everyone just to use the chat. Oh, Todd is there. Excellent. Hi, Todd. I'll just continue teaching then. Todd will take over in the chat. That's great. Gaga says, hi, Teacher Bob. Just a sec. I have to say hello to Todd because it's nice to say hello to people. Gaga says, hi, Teacher Bob. I don't want to call you Bob because I feel very polite, because you are much older than me and I respect you and the way I call it. Can I call you Mr. or Teacher? So an old way to do it would be to call me sir, but that I don't feel like a sir. Like if you were to say, sir, could I ask you a question? That's very, very polite. I think it's fine just to call me Teacher Bob. That's actually quite common. My students at school don't call me that, but they call me by my last name. But I usually don't put my last name on the internet. It's not wise to do that. So Teacher Bob is a great way to refer to me. Absolutely, for sure. Let's see here. Ciao, hello Bob, or Kaio, hello Bob. I intend to spend 1 month in Canada studying English. Do you think that 1 month is a good period or no? So ideally, you want to spend 1 year. But any time that you can spend in a country where people speak English is good. 1 month is awesome. If 1 month is a good amount of time, what I highly recommend though is during that 1 month, only spend time with people who speak English. Don't spend time with people from your own country who speak your native language. Make sure for the entire month you are just speaking English, reading English, and interacting with English-speaking people. And then 1 month would be good. Oh, here, Todd. You can, oh wait, my bad. I'll get the link. It's at the top of the spreadsheet if you need it, but here's the link right here. You can just copy and paste that one. Does that work? Just let me know in the chat. Okay, next question. Actually, let me clean up my questions here for a minute so that I don't get things mixed up. When you get things mixed up in English, you get confused. So Gaga says, oh, wait, I did that one. Next one is from Khaled. Khaled says, can I register in your institute to learn English? So I do not have an online school or an online course. So all I do is I make videos for YouTube. I do a live lesson every Friday morning, Eastern Standard Time at 7:30. And I do a live lesson most Saturday nights. So there is nothing to register for. I also have a smaller YouTube channel where I do daily lessons. And I also have Instagram, Facebook, and I also have TikTok. So if you like to have little short lessons on TikTok, you could go there as well. So anyways, I don't have an actual online school like a lot of teachers do. Let's see here. Renata says, is opossum an obsolete word? Should I say possum instead? So an opossum or a possum is a little animal that lives in this part of Canada and most of North America, and we call them possums. So I think you could be right. I don't often use the word opossum. We usually just say a possum. We usually just say possum. It just sounded funny when I said that because you could get a little confused. Let's see here. Johan Fonseca says, how could I look natural while I talk? So I'm correcting your question a little bit there, Johan. I think that's what you're asking. How can I look natural when I talk? Or how can I sound natural when I talk? And that's just going to come with practice. And please realize that if you are learning English as an adult, you will most likely have an accent. And I wouldn't get too worried about that. Having a bit of an accent when you speak English, I think is a very attractive thing. As long as you can speak clearly and people can understand you, I think it's very cool to have a little bit of an accent. So just practice a lot. That's the biggest thing. Practice a ton. Renata has a question about animals. What is the difference, or what's the difference between ox and bull? So Deekshanch says he is unable to post a question. I'm sorry about that, Deekshanch. There are questions coming in, so I hope it's not just something strange happening with the internet. Anyways, an ox and a bull, we usually use the term bull now for a male cow. A long time ago, they had cows that were specifically used to pull things, and they were called oxen. So an ox is just a cow that's used to pull something. We don't do that anymore. We just use tractors very much. Let's see here. Next question. Alex says, Bob, could you please explain the word pitch? I can't understand what it means and when should I use it? You know, so this is a challenging word, pitch. So here we go. I can take a ball in the game of baseball and I can pitch the ball. So that's one use of the word pitch. If I have a really good idea at work, I can pitch the idea to my boss. That means I explain the good idea I have to my boss, hoping that he'll say it's a good idea. There's something that they used to use a long time ago that they would use to seal up boats, and it's called pitch. It was like a black tar, So there's a lot of different words or meanings for the word pitch. I highly suggest you look it up in a dictionary, and that will help you a lot. So try that. Let's see here. Hamud Alonzi says, "Hi Bob." Hi Hamud. If you were not an English teacher, what would have been another choice for you? Thanks, Hamud from Saudi Arabia. I would have been most likely a farmer, or perhaps a computer programmer. So my parents had a dairy farm. When you watch the videos where I'm outside where Jen and I grow flowers, that's the farm that I grew up on. I bought the farm from my mom. So there was a time in my life where I thought I was going to be a farmer, but I chose to go to university. There was another time in my life where I thought I would be a computer programmer, but I ended up teaching. That was something that I really liked, and so that's where I ended up. That's a great question though, Hamud. I liked that question. Thank you very much for that question. Let me clear up my questions here. Oh, there's a lot of questions now. Let's see here. Next one is from Renata. Which one is correct? Correct. Shared house or share house? So I'm not sure what you're asking. Neither of those terms is familiar to me. But what I think you might be asking about is if people share a house or live in a house together. So I'm not quite sure, Renata, exactly what you're asking. But if I was to say, if they live together in a shared house, that's how I would say it. Okay, I would use the shared version of it. Next one is from Renata. Can I say both? I hate it when and I hate when. I heard mostly with it are both correct. So I can say I hate it when people are late for work, or I hate when people are late for work. The first one is probably the most correct, but you could say both, okay? You could say I hate it when they get my order wrong at a restaurant, or I hate when they get my order wrong at a restaurant. Both of those would work. I just see Jorge Reyes in the chat says, I'm from Spain. I love you, baby. Thanks, man. Thanks for the compliment. Very nice of you. Kaio says, what is the meaning of approach? So if I was standing really far away and I walk towards you, I would say that I am approaching you, okay? Or you could say when you approach someone, you should smile and say hello. So when you approach, if there's two people, this person is approaching this person. So that is the meaning of that word. Let's see here. Next question, Renata says, why do we use the preposition on for television shows and in for movies? So that's an interesting one. So you can watch a show on television, and you can say that an actor is on a bunch of different shows, okay? But you would say the actor is in a movie. So let me pick a good actor. I was gonna say Tom Hanks. So Tom Hanks, wait, he's not. Let's go with Jennifer Aniston. So Jennifer Aniston is in several movies, but she is also on a television show right now called The Morning Show. So I don't know why, but that's just what we do. So let me see here. I have a lot of things happening in the chat. Looks normal to me. I'm sure Todd will take care of it. Hamud has a great question for me. I like Hamud's questions. They're really good. Hamud says, if you had $1 million, what would be the first thing you would do? So notice the correction I made there, Hamud. What would be the first thing you would do? Thanks, Hamud Alonzi from Saudi Arabia. So if I had $1 million, so there's something in the world called a mortgage. When you borrow money to buy a house, you have what's called a mortgage. So if I suddenly had $1 million, I would pay all the money to the bank that I owe the bank for my mortgage. That would be the first thing I do. The second thing I would do is I would put probably half of it away for retirement. And that would probably be the whole $1 million gone. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't quit my job. I wouldn't stop making YouTube videos. I would certainly just use the money wisely and go from there. But if it really happened though, if Hamoud suddenly sent me $1 million, we would need to see if that's what I would actually do. Renata says, can I say them both? There's no such thing as, and there's no such... No, you can't say the second one. The first one is correct. There's no such thing as. The second one I don't want to say out loud because it is incorrect. So the first one, Renata, is the correct one. Let's see here. Next question is from Kaio. Do you know ICLA school? Do you advise studying there? Notice I made a correction there to your sentence or to your question. Do you advise studying there? I don't know that school, so I can't say one way or the other. Okay. In English, when we can't answer a question, we sometimes say, I can't answer one way or the other because I don't have enough information. Let's see here. Renata, do you believe that the planets have an influence over us somehow? I don't think so. I think the planets are just up there in the night sky. I don't really think that's I'm just reading the chat. There's still discussion about bulls and ox. So it's an interesting, there's a lot of farming discussion happening in the chat right now. Let me clear up the questions here. Just give me a moment. While I'm doing that, let's see here. Renata, you have a lot of questions today. It's awesome. Renata says, could you explain the idiom food for thought, please? Thank you. So food for thought is when you say to someone, maybe, so you give people an idea and it's something they need to think about for a while. So for instance, if you had extra money and you didn't know what to do with it, someone might say, maybe you should think about donating some of the money. So you would say, well, that's food for thought. And what that means is that you'll think about that idea for a bit. So there you go, food for thought. Let's see. Next question is from John Bread. John Bread says, hi, I'm often wondering how to use that in a sentence. For example, I thought you could show up. Oh, it's not in the party, it's at the party. And I thought that you could show up at the party, which is correct. Both are correct. There are small errors though. Let me reread both sentences. It should be, I thought you could show up at the party. I thought that you could show up at the party. So in English, we get a little bit lazy sometimes and we drop words out. The word that gets thrown into sentences sometimes for no reason. So in that case, in the examples you gave, you don't need the word that, but you can use it. It sounds totally normal when I read that. So let's go to the next question. Getting a few repeat questions here. That's okay. Let's see. Youssef says, hi, Bob. Hi, Todd. Thank you for your efforts again. My question is, when can we use I have to, or I have to, and I got to, like I have to go to the store and I got to thank you. So I have to is the best way to say it. When you say I've got to, it sounds a little bit like slang. So when I say I have to drink some tea right now, I actually did have to drink some tea. But I could also say, I got to, or I gotta drink some tea right now. They mean the same thing. I would use have to. It just sounds a little bit better. To say I gotta is totally normal, but it's usually not I've got to. We usually say I gotta. I gotta do that right now. Let's see here. Next question is from Brahim Aksase. Brahim Aksase. Hi, Bob. Learning English online is one of the positive faces of the internet, or facets. You can say facets of the internet. There exists a lot of stuff to learn electronically and to share with interested people. Yes, the internet's amazing for learning a language, not just English, but certainly for English, it's great. There's websites like Duolingo. There's websites like Quizlet where you can make your own quizzes. You can use Anki to make flashcards. You can use Skype and Facebook to talk to native English speakers. There's websites like Preply, Cambly, italki, where you can hire someone to teach you a language. The internet's amazing. So I would 100% agree with that. Let's see here. Zikun Cheng says, "Hi Bob, don't worry about it. I was going to buy a new one next week anyways. Why use was in this sentence? Is the future tense." So I will buy or I am going to buy mean that you definitely were going to do it. But if you say I was going to buy, it means that you thought about it. You probably were going to do it, but it wasn't 100% positive. So if I say I was thinking of buying something or I was going to buy something, there's a very high chance that I will buy it, but it's not 100% definite. So thanks, English Danny. English Danny Learn English channel has given me a super chat. Thank you very much, English Danny. His comment is, "Bob is the best. Let's press the like button." Thank you for that. And that reminds me too, if you're new here, you can click the subscribe button. Thumbs up, clicking the like button is always welcome. I really appreciate it. Let's go to the next question. I'm not sure I answered the last question very well. Let's see here. I'm going to clean up the questions again. I have a lot of repeats in here. Here's the next one. I have the next question ready. Benio San says, "Hi, Teacher Bob. Could you tell me the difference between observe, see, and look?" So when you observe something, it means that you're usually a little bit far away and you watch it happen, okay? So you are observing something happen. You are not part of what's happening, okay? So you can be someone, you could observe two people arguing with each other, okay? So you could observe that. Let me move back to the question because I forgot the second part. When you see something, it is the same as observe, but it is a more common way to say it. So you could say, I saw, so I changed the verb there a bit. I saw two people arguing, or from across the street, I could see two people arguing. And then your last one is look. When you look, it simply means that you are using your eyes to look in a certain direction. So I can look over there, then I can look over there, and I can look up there, okay? That wasn't the best explanation. I'm sorry about that. I would certainly look those up as well on the internet and maybe get a better explanation than my really quick one right there. But certainly it's tricky, isn't it, to learn how to use those two or those three verbs. Raghi says, "Hi Bob, can you give me a hint about sentences with two verbs and when I have to use ing in one of them and when I don't have to?" So that is one of the tricky things about English, and it is hard to explain. So here, what I will do is I will give you an example of a sentence where I will use ing. So I can say right now, I am talking to the camera, okay? I can also say, right now, I talk to the camera, but it just sounds better and it's more common to describe it with I am talking, okay? To add the ing and say I am talking. In a few minutes, I am going to be eating these cookies that Jen made. Jen just brought me cookies, but I can't really eat during a live stream. But I will be eating the cookies. So notice I'm now talking in the future. I will be eating. I'm going to eat the cookies. I just gave you a whole bunch of examples there, and I'm not sure that was a very logical explanation. But when to use verbs with ing and when not is a pretty tricky thing to master. What I highly recommend is that you listen actively for native English speakers and when they use which one, okay? There are rules for it. You can look them up, go online and look them up. So let's see here. Let me clean this up. What is the difference? This is from Esther. "Hi, Teacher Bob. What is the difference between gaze, stare, and look?" So when you gaze at someone, it means you're looking at them and you're not looking away. But it usually is used when someone likes someone, like, oh, you know, he was gazing in her direction. It's not a common verb for us to use. When you stare at someone, though, it's when you look at them and you don't look away. So don't don't freak out. I'm going to stare at everybody for a minute. This is stare. So right now I'm staring. So your eyes are kind of open and you're just looking straight at someone. And then when you look at a person, it's simply like this. Like if I look over and then I look away. So it's not where you, for a long period of time, are looking in one direction. I'm going to watch my screen here and see what it looks like when I'm staring at people. Because my screen's a little delayed. Yeah, that freaks me out a little bit. So let's see here. Let me clean up my questions again. So the next one is from SBS. And the question there is, what is the difference between killer and slayer? So if you're talking about someone who has, done the crime of murder, we would call them a killer. The word slayer is an older word, and we don't use it as much anymore. So you'll have to look up the word slayer a bit, because sometimes when someone murders multiple people, we might use that word. But usually the more common word would be to use murderer or killer. Those would be the two that you would see in the news for sure. Next question from Lisa Roa. Lisa says, "Hi Bob, how would you correct these sentences? There's popular, I want to become a tourist guide. That's my teacher, thank you." So there is popular with tourists. So I'm just going to read what I think you want to say. This area is popular with tourists. I want to become a tourist guide. Who is my teacher? Thank you. Or who would be my teacher? I really like your videos. So hopefully that made some sense. I think you really want to ask, where can I find a teacher? That would make a little bit more sense. Yeah, Todd, I think the link is working in some parts of the world and not others. So my latest question is from, there's questions appearing right now. So I feel like Deekshansh as well said that he couldn't use the link. I'm wondering if it's just broken in some parts of the world. So that's the, sorry, I'm smiling at the next question. Benio San says, what is the difference between rob, steal, and burgle? So people can rob you, people can steal from you, and people can burgle your home. Burglars burgle. We don't use the word burgle a lot, though, because it sounds funny. We usually say that burglars steal things. But certainly when you get robbed or when someone robs you, they are actually stealing from you. So to get robbed is an actual thing, right? Like you come home and everything is gone. You can say, we have been robbed, or people have stolen all our stuff. A burglar must have broken into our home. Sorry, the word burgle just makes me laugh. I don't know why. Burgle. It sounds kind of funny. Michael says, thanks for your great content. Are you planning to provide podcasts in the future? So I'm not sure what the future holds. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing for a long time until I have a little more time in my life. So for now, I'm going to do the Friday morning live lesson, the Saturday evening live stream, and one video a week. And we'll see. Maybe at some point in the future, I will do a podcast, but it's not the plan right now. Let's see. Carlos says, what book can I read to improve my English? So the first book I usually recommend is The Pearl by John Steinbeck. I think I might have spelled his last name wrong. That is a great book. It's 80-something pages. It is really easy to read. So that is the first thing I recommend. If you have read that book, I would suggest that you read something like Charlotte's Web is a kid's novel. Very, very easy to read as well. Those would be the books I would start with. And then anything by John Grisham. So for the people asking questions in the chat, I don't usually answer questions from the chat. Please use the form to ask the questions, okay? Todd posts the link every once in a while. That's the best way to do it. Next question. Mohammed Abdullah, I am from Saudi Arabia, and I am studying medicine in the first year. In your opinion, What is the best advice for learning the language? Of course, after watching your channel. So first of all, if you're studying medicine, hopefully you can find a way to continue studying medicine where you work with English speakers. That would be awesome if you could figure out how to be in a place where you can talk to people in English. But generally what I recommend, I have to scroll back here, Mohammed, is if you can spend time every day, read every day, write every day in English, listen to something every day in English, speak in English every day, and build your vocabulary. So to back up, it's great if you can read a book, find music to listen to, read the news in English, read the news in your own language, listen to the news, watch movies, write English as much as you can, even if you are just making notes to yourself, and there's a link in the description below to Preply, but use Preply or Cambly or italki to find a native English speaker. That would be the best thing that you could do. So let's see here. Oh, this is a good question. I like this question. So Ragi says, in 1 out of 10, how do you consider your speed while you are speaking in your videos? I mean, 1 very slowly and 10 very, very fast. So I would say I move between probably between a 4 and an 8. And occasionally I'm at a full 10 speed in my videos. So if you are watching the live streams, you probably realize right now I'm probably talking at about a 4 or 5 in terms of speed. And every once in a while, when the question makes me laugh, I might speak at a 7 or an 8 because all of a sudden you'll hear me go really quickly, like I just did right now. That is almost my normal speed. So I would say in my videos, on Tuesdays, I'm a 4, maybe a 5. In my live streams, I'm anywhere between a 4 and a 10, depending on the topic. So great question, by the way. I really like that question. Max has a question that I'm going to ask him to look up. It says, hi, Bob, what is the difference between good and well? So that is a big subject, Max. You really need to watch a whole video just on the difference between good and well. I will give you a couple of examples. So the first thing I would say is, have you read any good books lately? Okay, so that just means books that were interesting. And you could respond by saying, you know what, I don't read very well, which means you're not good at reading. So I kind of flip the words back and forth there, because you could also say I'm not a good reader because I don't read very well. So you'll have to, I would say, study that a little more than just my quick answer in a video. Let's see here. Tom has the next question. Tom says, hi, teacher. My question is, what is the difference, make sure we're getting that right, difference. What is the difference, excuse me, between offer and provide? So I can offer something to someone. So I could offer you these cookies, okay? I could say, would you like a cookie? And you could say yes or no. But let's say you're someone who buys flowers from me every day. I could say that I am providing flowers for you, okay? So when you offer, you're saying basically, would you like these, yes or no? But when you're providing something, it usually means that you've already decided you need it. So I provide food for my kids every day. I don't offer my kids food. I just provide food for them, okay? So there's a slight difference. I hope that made some sense. I don't usually answer from the chat, but someone says, I notice you have much more gray hair. Yeah, slowly but surely, you get older, you get more gray. That's kind of how it works. It's kind of a kind of a funny thing in life. Excuse me. Let's see here. Leonora says, do you think reading off after speeches is a good way to practice English? So anytime that you can repeat something that an English speaker has said, is a good thing to do. It's called shadowing or copying, and it's just a good way to mimic what other people are saying in English. So some people even do it with my videos. They'll watch my video the next day and they'll just repeat things that I say after I say them. I just want to mention here, I know some people like to ask questions in the chat. You do really need to use the form, and at this point, I have a lot of questions, so please be patient. There is a good chance I will not get through all the questions. There are so many of them. It's just the way this works. There's nothing we can do to speed it up. So just please be patient. Next questions. Pruz Pivatel says, hello, Bob the Canadian. Hello. Thank you for your work. You're welcome. Do you recommend to watch old movies from the 30s and 40s? So I don't actually recommend that you watch anything made that far in the past. Really old movies tend to have phrases and words that we don't use anymore, things that are no longer current. So I would say any movies made in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, or in the last 20 years are great, but I wouldn't watch anything that's too old because you might sound like you're using really old phrases if you do that. So I wouldn't watch. I mean, if you're interested, certainly do watch them. Yaroslav says, hi, Teacher Bob. I am very grateful for your contribution in this area. You're welcome. Could you please provide advice on how to speak more smoothly, even if it's quite obvious answer? So we'll go right back to what I just said. It's good to listen to native speakers and then after they say a sentence, say it out loud yourself. The more you can speak out loud, the more the muscles in your mouth and tongue learn to form the sounds. So do that as much as possible. The other thing I highly recommend is that you just record yourself and listen to it with a critical ear, okay? That's just the way it goes. Sorry, I'm reading the chat while I'm trying to talk. I apologize to the people where the link to ask a question isn't working. I'm sorry. Something's broken. It's not something that I can fix. So anyways, to speak more smoothly, try to mimic or copy native English speakers. Try to shadow what they are saying. So play 20 seconds of a video and hit pause, and then say what they said, and play the next one, hit pause, and play what they said. And then listen to a lot of English. You can actually improve your speaking by listening to a lot of English. So hopefully, Yaroslav, that answered your question. Let me just clear up my chat here for a minute. Next question is from Georgie, says, hi, Bob. Hi, Georgie. What does this phrase mean? So I corrected your question there. What does this phrase mean? We can work it out. I heard it in the Beatles song. So let's say two people are fighting, okay? They're arguing. They don't agree with each other. If you like the person who you are arguing with, you might say to them, hey, we can work this out. That means I can say what I think, you can say what you think, and we can somehow agree. We can work out this problem, okay? We can spend time to fix whatever is happening between us. So when you say to someone, hey, we can work it out, what you're saying is you're willing to talk with them and to find a solution to the problem or to bring the argument to a resolution. That's what you were saying. Kathy has a great question. Kathy says, how do you encourage and motivate your real life students to learn French? That is a challenge sometimes. So here's what I will say. In Canada, when you are in high school, you are required to learn French up to grade 9, okay? So in grade 9, when you are 13 years old, you are required to take a French class. After that, in grade 10, 11, and 12, you choose to take French. So what I will say is this. In grade 9 French, there are students who love learning French. There are students who not so much. So there's students who love it and there's students who would rather not be learning French. So I try to be positive. I try to make things interesting. I try to be encouraging to help them learn French. In grade 10, 11, and 12 French, when students choose to take it, it's a lot easier. They love the language and they've decided to learn it. So that just works out a lot better. Next question here. So Boss K says, what is the difference? Correction there. What is the difference between fiction and novel? So fiction and nonfiction are just two types of novels, okay? Books. So a fiction book is a book that isn't true. Someone has made it up using their imagination. A nonfiction book is a story about real life, okay? A novel is simply a book that tells a long story, okay? So it's something different. So fiction and nonfiction are two types of books, and a novel is simply a story in book form. So there you go. Let's see here. Deekshant, you got it to work. I'm glad. So Deekshant says, hi Bob, I don't know if this is going to work. I wanted to ask if you have the plural you in your English dialect like y'all and yous in some dialects. We don't. So basically when we say you, it can mean one person or it can mean more than one. We do often though say you guys, okay? So I might say, you should stop running in the hall. To one student, you should stop running in the hall. But if there's two students, I might say, you guys should stop running in the hall. Now, guys is a masculine way of addressing people, but we use it for both genders. It's not exactly correct, and I probably shouldn't do it, but I often say you guys if I want to use you in plural. We also say things like you two. That's a way to address two people, like, hey, you two, stop running in the hall. But no, there's no real plural. Like in French, you have tu and vous. So anyways, wish we did, though. That would really be helpful, I think. Maybe we do, and I'm just forgetting it. One of the English teachers can chime in. Hello, Bob the Canadian. Thank you for your work. Do you recommend to watch old movies? Oh, sorry, I think we did that question already. I would say watch old movies only if you love them, but not to learn the language. Next question. Robert, hi Bob. When I try to speak English, we say tied. My tongue gets tied. We don't use locked, but your tongue gets tied. It's like you have trouble speaking. What exercises can I do in order to enhance my speaking skills? So the number one thing that they recommend is that you sing out loud, that you learn English songs and you sing them in the car, sing them when you're making supper. Singing can really help with if you're tongue-tied or if you have trouble forming the words when you're speaking. So sing a bunch. Yeah, Deekshant says, you did have one, it was thou. Yes. I'm going to respond to Deek here for a sec. So the word thou, we haven't used that for a long time, but Deekshant is absolutely correct. We had thou. Next question is from Tugrel. Can you explain I will say phrase? I will say, that's a tricky one. That's not a real specific phrase. So I would say, I would say. See, I would say is something we say a lot, but we don't say I will say very often, unless, like, not in a special way. It's just a normal sentence. So tricky one to answer. Thanks for the smiley face, Deekshant. It's fun. I'm glad you get up early, Deekshant, to watch this, but I hope you're not tired all day today now. I know it's really early over there. It's probably like 10 to 6 in the morning or something like that. Let me see here. Next one is a correction. Sarah Diaz says, hello, Bob. How do you correct the following sentences? The city has beautiful parks. Did people like it? Greetings from Colombia. So the sentence, the city has beautiful parks, is correct. But then I would say, did people like them? Okay. So if I said that Oh, you visited the city. Did it have beautiful parks? Did people like them? That's how I would say that. I think I got that right. I hope I explained that nicely for you. Next one. Adam says, hi, Bob. What's the difference between repair, fix, and mend? Thank you, Adam from the Czech Republic. Well, welcome, Adam, to the live lesson. First of all, repair and fix are very similar. So you can fix a car, you can repair a car, you can fix a chair, you can repair a chair. But when we use the word mend, in Canada at least, and in the United States, we're usually talking about clothing, okay? So you can mend a shirt. You can also fix a shirt and you can repair a shirt. But usually we say, oh, this shirt it needs to be sewn up here. Someone needs to mend it. You can also mend a broken heart. So if you broke someone's heart, they loved you and you walked away from them, you can mend a broken heart. But yeah, repair and fix are the two most common ways that we express. Let's see here. Have you ever considered writing... So I have to correct this one. Just a sec here. There was a bad word in there and I fixed it. Hamoud says, hi, Bob. Have you ever considered writing books? Thanks, Hamoud. The word that was misspelled, Hamoud, was books. You had the K was actually a B, and that's actually not a word that I'm going to use. But anyways, yes, I have considered writing books. I would love someday to have time to write books that are good stories that also teach people English. So if you watch the videos where I tell a story that is true and a story that is a lie, I really like telling stories about my life, and I would like to someday write more stories about my life and also fiction, which would be stories that I make up. So I do some writing, but I don't often put it online. But yes, that would be fun someday to do a bit more writing. For a while, I did more writing in French than in English because I was practicing my French writing. Renata says, how does it feel being a native speaker of a language that everyone in the world wants to learn? So I in one sense, I feel like I want to do as much as I can to help people. I really like helping people learn English. But how does it feel? I think it's just circumstance. It's just the way it is. I think that all languages are beautiful. I'm kind of sad sometimes that English is one of the most popular languages in the world. But certainly I do enjoy teaching it, so it does give me an opportunity to connect with people. But I heard a stat the other day that in January of 2020, there will be 2 billion people actively learning English in the world. So 2 billion people are learning English. That is a lot of people, okay? So how does it feel? I don't know. It feels strange sometimes, actually. Sometimes I wish everyone was learning French or Spanish or Chinese or Japanese, or now people are going to say, pick my language, or Russian, or Swahili. It's just strange that English is, well, it's not strange. If you study history, there are reasons for it, right? Next question is from Kezia. Hi, Kezia. If you had a chance to teach English in a non-English speaking country, which country would you want to go to? So please don't get angry when I answer this question. Please do not get annoyed if I don't pick your country. If I could go teach English in any country in the world, I'll have to be honest, I would go to France. I would go to France because my French is okay, but I would want to improve my French as well. So number one choice, if I went to teach in another country, would be France. That doesn't mean I don't like Russia or China or Taiwan or any other place in the world. I would love to go to a lot of different places, but for my own sake, I would love to teach in a French-speaking country. So sorry, guys, if you're from Spain or Germany or one of the other countries in the world. I'd love to visit, but If I was to teach English, I would have to be selfish. Let's see here. Let's see. Next question from Mohammed. Mohammed says, which is the correct or even more common pronunciation of the word etc.? And why do I feel my tongue is tied when I want to speak English, although I memorize tons of vocabulary? So the first question is, when you see etc., we say etc. Some people say etc., but it's actually etc. Okay, so etc. You will most likely hear etc. with a little X sound in it. And then about your second thing, we'll go back to the singing is really helpful. Speaking out loud when no one else is there is very helpful. Talk English to yourself in the mirror in the morning when you're doing your hair or shaving. If you're a guy, talk to yourself in the mirror, sing in the car, record yourself, and then listen to it back again. And prepare for those conversations. It's really good to be prepared. So think about the things that you will say or that you will talk about. So think about small talk like the weather. Be able to talk about the weather, about sports, about the latest television show or book that you watched. Just be ready. That can really help. And if you can find another person who is learning English, just have a really bad English conversation with them where you both make lots of mistakes. That can be very helpful. Next question. Let me just have to clear up some stuff here, folks. There's a lot of extra question. Let's see here. Okay. Next question is from Kaio. Hey Bob, what can I do to help me with people's accents? For example, I can understand very well people from the EU or Canada, but people from England and India, it's very hard for me. I think it just takes time. I think that it's not that they're using different words, but I myself, it's very easy for me to understand someone from India speaking English. It's very easy for me to understand someone from England or Ireland or Australia speaking English. It's very easy for me to understand new English speakers. I think because I have spent a lot of time perfecting my own English listening skills. So just spend a lot of time listening to English with different accents. I usually recommend that you watch movies and learn to understand the accent for the country you are most likely to visit or move to or have business dealings with, okay? So that's, yeah, it's tricky. Fabulous says, love you, Bob. Thank you, Fabulous. Matt has a question here. Oh, I need to paste that. Matt says, hey, Bob, what's the difference between warm up or heat up? They are the same thing. If I come home and there is food in the refrigerator, so there's food in the fridge for me, there's food in the refrigerator for me, I might put it in the microwave to heat it up. I might put it in the microwave to warm it up. They're the same thing, okay? They mean the same thing. Are you guys distracted by my screensaver behind me? There. I'll make the screen solid blue again. Let's see here. Gregory. Oh, this is an interesting question, Gregory. Gregory says, my question is, if the company's name includes the country name, should we translate it into English? For example, this is GB from ABC Poland or ABC Polska, original company's name. I would say if the original company's name is in the title, leave it in the title. Most international companies, though, have local names for themselves, right? And I think many large companies eventually remove the name or they change things. So for instance, my bank is the Royal Bank of Canada, but they actually call themselves RBC now. So they kind of make their name a little easier for people to remember. Let's see here. Johan Fonseca says, is it normal, a little correction there, Johan, is it normal that I can't understand almost any song? Yes, it's completely normal. Even in English, I don't always understand all of the words in a song. It's very important that if you are using music to improve your English, that you learn the lyrics or the words to the song as like an activity. Like print them out, read the lyrics to the song, and look up all the words you don't know, and read along while you are listening to the person sing. Do this at least 4 or 5 times, and then you will then have a better sense of what's happening or what words they are using in the song, okay? So do that. It's very important. It's a really good thing to do. Hey, I just want to stop just to say, if you're one of the 584 people watching and you are not a subscriber, please do click that red subscribe button. Thumbs ups are always awesome. And let's do a couple more questions here. Next question is from Alex. Alex's question is, hi, Bob. Hi, Alex. Are you studying or learning another language at the moment? If so, which one? If not, do you intend to? So I have tried to do that. I have tried a couple of times to learn a little bit of Chinese, and it is difficult for me to learn a third language, mostly because I have to constantly work on my French speaking skills, because it's a language that I learned later in life, and I also teach French classes, so I want my French skills to be top-notch. So when I have extra time, I read in French and I watch French television and I watch French movies. I don't have a lot of time right now to learn another language, but if I did, it would most likely be Chinese for sure. Let me just check something for a sec. So I want to just give a shout out to myself for a minute. Let me see here. If you did not know, I have another channel. The link above is to my other channel. I have another YouTube channel where I teach really short English lessons Monday through Friday. If you're interested, you should have a look at that. But let's do one more question. Let's see. Mop says, hi, Bob. Did you make this question form for posting comments? It is really convenient. Yes. So a long time ago, there used to only be about 40 or 50 people in the live stream, and I would answer questions straight from the chat. But now there's usually over 400 or 500 people, and that becomes a little bit too difficult. So we use the form. I don't get to all the questions. I'm sorry. It's just very challenging to get through all the questions. But it is what it is, we would say in English. Anyways, people, I am going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching. It has been 1 hour. It's time for me to stop the live stream. Please do remember that if you come back tomorrow, you should watch this again and turn on the English subtitles. Maybe plan for a time tomorrow where you can listen to this again in the background. So listen to it while you are making supper, or just have it playing as you're getting ready to go out for the day. It's just good listening practice for you to hear something 2 times or more. If I didn't get to your question, I am sorry. That just happens sometimes. There's sometimes too many questions for me to answer in one sitting. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you have the time, you should watch my video from this past Tuesday. Actually, it was a video. Let me find that video for you. I'll post a link. My last video was on, for some reason my internet stopped working just as I'm trying to click on things. My last video was ways to say good luck to people. Let me just get a copy of that for you. Here is the link to my last video. You should watch it. I'd really appreciate it if you watched it. That would just be awesome. I think that's the link. We'll see. Pretty sure that it's working. Anyways, I'm going to push this red button here and I'm going to say bye. And once again, the button doesn't show up on my screen. There it is. Anyways, bye everyone. Don't forget to subscribe. Thumbs up. Have a great week ahead. Have a great Sunday.